It's the holiday season. And doop-dee-doo, dickory-dock, she's gonna lick me up and down my cock. And he's coming down the chimney now. So leave a peppermint stick for old St. Nick. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a very special edition of this podcast. We are in the midst of the holiday season. I hope that everybody's holidays have been treating them very well so far. I know it's been extremely cold in the Northeast. Nothing against that to anybody who doesn't like the cold, but I love it. I endure it. I love my winter sports. I love the snow. I love the cold. I love the salts on the road. I love big fat tires and the treads that you get to wear and have during the winter months. Even though I don't have those type of tires, I want them. I like looking at them. I like hearing the tread of the rubber stick and grab the road. As inefficient as it may be to the vehicle, I love that part of the winter. I just love snow. I love the cold. I love the holiday season. I'm a big festive guy. When I was playing sports in college, that was usually the only time I got to come home from West Virginia back to the Northeast. So I have a very nostalgic memory and feeling of holidays from a young kid and even up until some of my older years, higher teens, low 20s. There is a certain feeling and warmness I get around the holidays, and I think everybody should. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go on during these times to make us believe or think that we should be, celebrating and aiming our ideas in a certain way when it comes to celebrating the holidays, whether it be buying gifts or doing parties or secret Santas, whatever anybody tries to draw up in front of your face. Just understand what the bigger and broader picture is. Excuse me, especially with, what's going on in the world right now. I don't think material value is going to show others, how much you may or they may mean to you or them. So take a moment to verbalize that to them. And I know it can be difficult. It can be difficult going up to individuals and telling them how much you appreciate them or how much you like them or how much they mean to you. But you don't have to do it in some soppy, sappy way. You can short form break it down. You can give it to them in a haiku, 3-5-3, or is it 5-7-5? I'm not sure. I'm not a poet or a scholar. But let them know that you care about them. I guarantee you it will change the outlook or the aspect of their day, their week, their month, their year, who knows? But especially if you're a person that doesn't get to verbalize these feelings to them too often, make sure you do. I guarantee you they'll appreciate it. They'll love you for it. And even if you're the type of person that doesn't usually do that type of thing and you have to kind of go outside of your shell to do it, I almost guarantee that the individual hearing what you're saying to them will understand, hey, this person went out of their way to do that, and I appreciate them that much more because they were uncomfortable doing it. That's what I'm gonna, task upon anybody who is listening to this is do something uncomfortable these holidays that shows your appreciation for somebody else. Don't spend an exuberant amount of money. If anybody truly cares about you, they don't want you to spend that bread, that hard-earned cash, those big buckaroos that you've been working your tail end off for. Nobody wants you to spend that on them. They want you to spend time and love towards them. They don't care how much the gift costs. And if they do, they really don't truly care about you. They'd rather you invest that in Bitcoin or put it towards your car payment or your phone bill or buy yourself a good lunch. That's what they'd rather you do with that money. So just remember around the holiday season what's truly important. And I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but let's just understand that this holiday season, I've been doing a a lot of editing with some of the free time that I've had during this holiday season, for better or for worse. And what I've noticed is that it withers you down like an overused Ticonderoga pencil. Anybody who edits on a consistent basis knows how painstaking it can be, especially when you have to listen to your own ugly, ratty, raspy, smelly voice over and over and over and over, and you have to cut it up and paste it and align audio and put filters on and do all of those things. It can wither you down and make you an insane person, more crazy than I already was previous to editing all of these videos and things of that nature. I was an insane, crazy person in good and bad ways prior to ever having YouTube in my possession. But now, now, you thought I was a crazy man then. We're in a new age, my friends. But I just want to say that it withers you down and it takes a lot of effort. And it's a weird type of effort. It's some sort of like conservative, relaxed mental strain that like slowly peels you apart like radiation on paint on the outside of a nuclear tower or something. It's like I've seen those blue dogs in Chernobyl. Like a white sheepdog has run around Chernobyl long enough to develop blue fur. That's how editing makes me feel. It makes me feel like nothing is really happening, but everything is happening all at once. Not that I'm going to dye my hair blue anytime soon. Not that I'm insinuating anything behind anybody who has their hair dyed blue or anything of that nature. But, I see like people with YouTube channels that I not necessarily aspire to be, but you look and sought after for influence or just understanding or even advice or, tips on how they may have, got there. And, you look at people and there are a lot of good creators. I really like the $1 Million Extremes of the world. I like the Brandon Buckingham's. Prayers out to him. God bless him and everything he's going through. But then you look at people like, or also Moist Critical. Moist Critical is an awesome streamer. He does really good content. But also people like Tim Pool or iDubbbz. Like you look at these individuals and they just look withered and beaten because there's like a lack of exposure in the other facets of their life. It's almost as if they are constantly revolving around these doors of content. And I feel like it's extremely important to have any type of sanity to take time to separate yourself completely. I was just on a bro trip in the mountains, skiing and snowboarding and doing all of those fun things that guys do while in a giant house in the mountains. And everybody was curious. I won't say everybody, but there were people that were curious as to why I wasn't recording or trying to make media at that time. And there's a time and a place for everything, right? And even if I missed out on an opportunity to make something, I enjoyed my time around the people that was there. I was able to fully absorb the environment, the atmosphere that I was experiencing, and was able to give my full undivided attention to people. And I feel like that is way more important than any type of content that I can create. Would I have came out of that weekend with some cool stuff? Sure. Yeah, whatever. And I kicked myself here and there because I had what I needed, but I just didn't do it. For reasons like that, because I wanted to be fully ingrained. And whether or not I did gain any benefit from that or whatever, I'm happy I made that decision because I look at individuals like Tim Pool who just completely revolve themselves around the product and the outcome of their work. And if you listen to anybody like Michael Rubin or any of those guys, if you're doing it for that, you will burn out like a shitty matchstick. So I urge you, and if you are in any category of creation, to give yourself the slack. Cut yourself some slack. Give yourself a break. Understand that you are not a machine. You are a human, and you will only come back stronger and better. And it's inevitable that everybody has burnout and that you will ultimately, run out of gas at some point with certain things. But it's important to understand that is a momentary feeling and that you have to go with the ebbs and the flows, continue to create through these lows, and ultimately give yourself the ability to come out on a high. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I just wanted to call out those names as well, specifically, iDubbbz and Tim Pool. Those guys are, if you look at them, you could see what it has done to them over time. So I think it's important to put yourself first, because you yourself, the creator, the product, if you will, are ultimately leaching and seething out all of the content from your doing. So your life, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So your life will ultimately shine through and bleed through the stuff that you're trying to show. And no matter how much of a facade, how much editing, how much acting, or how much planning you do, ultimately your decisions that you make behind closed doors and on a day-to-day basis will shine. So keep that in mind. Always keep yourself first. Think about only yourself. Only be about yourself. Self-inward depictions only. Don't worry about shit, No, I'm joking. Don't do that. But yeah, I feel like a lot of these thoughts have kind of been refreshed by me as well. I've been reading more recently. I've been implementing reading into my mornings, daily reading into my mornings of books, just any books. My next book that I'm going to read is the DMT Prophecy. It's written by some not Rick Glassman, PhD. I'm pretty sure it's a Jewish doctor of sorts, but I'm sure you'll hear about that. I've been reading The Four Agreements recently. It's a really good book. I've read it previously in the past, and not full through. I read it in college, and I got the opportunity to reread it again. I was at a friend's house, and he lended me the book. Thank you, Michael. But a big thing that came through for me was of the Four Agreements, being impeccable with your word, not taking anything too personal, always doing your best in everything. And one of them was not making assumptions, which if you watch this stuff or any of my stuff, that's a point that I make here and there, specifically with some of the coaching lessons that I've had in my sports career. But, the Four Agreements, it's a book kind of that attempts to delace any of the preconceived notions you may have about life for yourself that may be restricting any of your progression or your thoughts or your knowledge or even your success in life. And it just tells you to use those four pillars to kind of restructure the mindset you may have on certain things with life, and to just live a little bit more freely, live through a more faith derivative, actionable kind of mindset, and that kind of letting everything go per se, and just letting things be, because that's all we can do is just be. We can only be ourselves. We can't be anybody else. We just have to be rooted in the words and the experiences that we have, and we have to understand that that's all we necessarily do have. So to try to do or act and mold into something that doesn't necessarily align with what your life is or what your life's kind of heading towards, it's important to just understand that you can control the controllable, but there's a lot of stuff that you have to let be. And I think that comes a lot with being impeccable with your word and not taking stuff personal and not making assumptions on everything. And you can judge, you can be a human, you can do those things. I'm not perfect. That's why I'm reading this book, because I'm trying to fix those things. I'm trying to, unlearn certain things and relearn better habits, or, just surround myself with better energy, or just put better thoughts into my head on a daily basis. I think that's really important in terms of the Four Agreements, especially when you feel a little less grounded than usual. Reading it's definitely something beneficial that you should do in those situations. And the holidays have just have me feeling extremely blessed. Whether or not I have everything I want or need, I have everything that I have, and it is everything that I need. Everything that I have currently is everything I need. I don't want to want for anything more or less. I just want to live my best through the things that I'm doing, and being and using some of these pillars. I feel like is a very simple way to not bog yourself down with too much extraneous thoughts, or to oversaturate yourself with anything that may be inducing negative outcomes or reactions to certain things. So I think that's extremely important. I'm like, for example, I never walked for my college graduation, my undergrad or my postgrad. And not that that really means anything to anybody. Outwardly perceiving, people may see that as a big no-no or a big failure. But there was certain things in impending or occurring at the time that kind of led me to not do that, and to sit here and sulk or assume or compare myself to something that may be bigger, better, shinier. That would just ultimately devalue what I have done, or not that even it needs to be of value to anybody else, but it would make me believe that it would be less of me to do something like that. And I think a big thing to compare to that is that the comparison idea, the comparison is the thief of joy. So to compare the outcome that I've had in that experience, it would rob any type of joy that I actually had of, getting those accomplishments. And just because I didn't do those hallmark things, walking across stage, doing the dab, or dancing and crip walking across a stage in a gown, it doesn't mean to me that I did anything less or I did anything more even. It's not that I was bigger than the moment either. Not that I was better or more profound than anybody for not doing those things. It's just that was my situation. That was what happened to me. And I don't think I've ever really thought about that in any type of way, but I think as an example, understanding that because you did something that was technically outside of the norm or wasn't necessarily aligned with what most people have done traditionally, doesn't mean it was of any lesser value or it was of any greater value. It's just an attribute to your experience and your life. And I think, outwardly viewing, depending on how you feel about those things, that can come with some of the agreements that I've talked about, being assumptive about the outcomes or how things may be perceived. So just be careful with how you judge yourself, because your actions and your thoughts will become actions, and those actions become habits, and ultimately those can come ingrained in your day-to-day life. So if you're speaking to some of the things that you've done negatively in your mind, you will start to outwardly project those things, which ultimately become attributes or characteristics of those thought processes that you have. So you want to be extremely careful with how your inward dialogue treats your mistakes, because they might not always be mistakes. I'm going to hit something classic, corny, whatever. It's not a loss, it's a lesson, brother. Do you hear me? You hear me? To all my ATLians, you hear me? So I saw a video recently, which brings me to my next point, of this guy who lives in New York, and he was explaining how he sees nobody living in the moment anymore. He walks around the city, into parks, seeing people cross the street, and everybody's face down into the phone, willing to get hit by a car for the next scroll, for the next like, for the next repost. And that resonated with me, because I have visited New York this past year quite a good amount, and I do feel out of place, maybe due to some situations like that, to where I'm walking around aimlessly with no phone in my hand and just looking and gawking at some of the views and the scenes and what's going on, and just kind of being ingrained in the now and feeling out of place, maybe for that very reason, because nobody else was necessarily doing that. He exclaimed that it's almost as if everybody just hits a crack pipe and stares off into the distance. If you think they're living in the moment, it's not because of the euphoria. It's because of it's actually because of drug-induced euphoria, not true life adrenaline, DMT oriented euphoria. Even though DMT is drugs only, I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, I think it's really important. I do this on planes too, that when you're in public to really sit with your thoughts and be in the moment and just absorb your thought process. And it was funny because the same guy was explaining doing that, and the person he was talking to, I believe it was his mother, said that was kind of weird to just be staring off with not looking at your phone in public. And it's almost as if you are opening yourself to conversations, and you're sitting there wanting someone to talk to you, which he disagreed and I staunchly disagree with. I feel like that I love sitting in public, looking at nothing, wanting to talk to nobody. Everybody assumes that because I'm not on my phone looking around, I'm looking for a conversation. No, I'm looking for silence in my brain, on my thumbs, everywhere. I'm just wanting to live with my thoughts. Can I live with my thoughts is the question. Can you stretch yourself emotionally and socially and mentally in that way to understand that you don't need to fill every little weaning second with some sort of external gratification or external stimuli. You have to be able to let your brain work and kind of turn and fold over itself like a tesseract or a Rubik's Cube or an origami piece. You have to let your brain inwardly fold on itself so you can see how far you can go until you to the brink of insanity, until you break, until you completely lash out. You need to see how strong your brain is. It's super important. But I challenge people. Everybody talks about meditation. Nobody needs to sit in an empty room with their legs crossed saying, "Om." You need to connect your third finger to your thumb because it aligns the electrical flow and current through your body, and you're technically flowing at the rate of a 6-volt battery. And if you were no, sure, if you want to do that, sure, but before you go to bed, sit on the edge of your bed, close your eyes for 5 minutes, or just lay down and just think, or just don't think. Just let your mind run like Usain Bolt. Let it run like Prefontaine. Let it go. Let it go. There's a lot of times at the end of the day, my mind feels like an unwinding fishing reel. You know when a big fin tuna is taking the reel out and it's just going like this? Sometimes my mind feels like that. Most of the time my mind feels like that. Like it's a spinning fishing reel just going fast and faster and faster. And I got to tighten down the tension so it doesn't get too taut or the line doesn't snap. So I have to tighten down the tension on the reel. I'm turning. And it's that's how my brain feels sometimes. But you have to let that happen. You got to let the fish run out because it'll tire itself out. And then you can reel those thoughts in. You can reel that big meal in. You can reel that big tuna, that big ahi tuna in. You can reel that thing in. If you just let those thoughts run, let the line run out, and then slowly reel it back in. Slowly reel back in. Thoughts are like fishing, man. You got to let them run, and you can reel them back in. If one runs off and it goes a little, the line snaps, let it go. You got plenty of lures to lace back up and go do the damn thing, man. It's always another day to fish. It's always another day to fish. Always another day to fix those thoughts and fix those habits. That's the great thing about waking up each and every day and having a new day is being blessed and being rooted in the fact that, hey, I got a new day. Let's attack it. Let's make it good. Let's make it better. Yeah, take some time to sit with your thoughts because ultimately that is you building trust with your brain, building trust with your thoughts. You should want to trust your brain. You should want to trust your thoughts. I understand that a lot of the habitual actions that we may have lead to us not trusting our instincts or our gut in certain situations. I think I talked about this before, like, I can't go out tonight. I won't trust myself to have 1 beer or 2 beers or wherever. Or no, I can't do that. I can't trust me, whatever. You need to, that is a muscle that you can flex, and work out. Excuse me. You need to understand that trusting yourself is extremely important in the eyes of improvement. And let's just go broad spectrum, they don't want you to trust yourself. They want you to rely on external monolith knowledge programs or whatever. They want you to rely on, that money guru, that real estate guru, that thinking workout Jocko Willlich guru. They want you to rely on that. They want you to rely on a third-party vendor for your own thoughts. You will own nothing and be happy. No, I will own everything and be extremely happy. Seriously, though, you want to be able to own your own thoughts. If you have no ownership of anything, you should be able to own your brain, own your thoughts, own your actions, own your decisions. Because they don't want you to. They don't want you to be able to trust yourself. They want you to go and go to somebody else for everything. That brings more money into their pockets, into their vessels. It brings more reliance onto them. I'm being very broad spectrum here. But you have to understand that you need to work on your brain. Trust your thoughts. Even if they are extreme and you have some extreme thoughts, delace it, break it down. Why did that just pop up in my head? Was I watching a crazy World War II documentary the other night? Or do I actually feel that way? Was I watching a little bit too much Nick Fuentes on Twitter? Or do I actually feel that way? And most of the time, it is just a compulsion. It is just an outward thing influencing, the standard morale or morals and thought process that you usually have. So you have to be able to delace that and think about your thoughts in a way that is, not impeding or making you an insane person too much, because you gotta vegetate sometimes, man. You gotta veg out. You gotta throw on, for me, it's Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson. I like watching Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson at night and just let my brain fudge out, man. That's how I get down if I'm feeling overwhelmed. So I think it's important to understand that you need to find vessels for yourself in that way, to treat yourself and also work on yourself. So ultimately, you will improve this pink thing that is a muscle. It's an organ, but it's a muscle. Same with the tongue. The tongue is the only weapon that becomes keener with constant use. That, I believe, is a Bible verse. We can look that up. You can fact check me if you'd really, really want to. But just be able to trust yourself. Continue to work on yourself and, be authentic in those things. It can be easy to kind of, assume or take mold of something that you've really been attached to for a while. But that's an important part of delacing your own thoughts and understanding, like, who am I? How can I be authentic to myself? Like, where does the authenticity lie within me? How can I just be? How can I just not be worried about judgment? How can I be, impeccable and firm with my word? How can I be truthful and not assume and stay within myself? I pray on that a lot. Like, Lord, please allow me to stay within myself and not, expound to areas that I have not had experience or knowledge in. Do not make me, step on my own tail, if you will. I think that's something that people can, kind of relate to and, kind of coincide with. But I hate to sit here and be so, attempting to be prophetic, or if something that I'm saying is, I'm not trying to be super profound in any way. I'm simply just trying to show you how me, common man, has the same thoughts that maybe you have on a day-to-day basis. And just give you an opportunity to understand that you are not alone in the constant working of yourself. And it's not all up to you, be authentic, be yourself, do the things that make you happy, but also understand that you should definitely, make sacrifices to make other people happy too, because that will ultimately bring more happiness to yourself. So if you want to look at it in a selfish light to make yourself happy, go ahead, sure. But I think that's important. Authenticity and being impeccable in your word and all those things I kind of spoke to. I'm not gonna, climb back up the tree after I just jumped down it. But there was a specific story I wanted to close on with this, and it was surrounding. I was just 60 Minutes has a YouTube channel, which I found really interesting. I mean, not really, but all these news channels have YouTube channels now, and they somehow have like 4 million subscribers. I'm like, yeah, sure, show me. Give me some. Give me half of that. Give me a eighth of that. Let me run into the forest with that. 60 Minutes did a special on Swiss watches, and specifically Philippe Dijur. He is a loneman watchmaker, lone guy in Swiss, in the mountains of the Swiss Alps, in between the valleys of the cows and everything, in the very nice, fertile, green crescent valleys, rolling hills of Switzerland. He's been solo making watches for 15, 25, 30 years. And he makes about like 2 watches a year, which is insane. When you think about the production and the craft and the the precision that goes behind the watches that he's making. It's kind of insane to imagine that he is only making 2 of these a year. which I find very interesting, and the video is really cool. And he sells them for, a pretty penny. I'm pretty sure some of his watches go for $100,000, $300,000 here, give or take. And there's a process, or like a vetting process that you have to, to go through to get one. But he seems, very happy, very quaint, a very humble guy. Had like fucking smoldered black teeth because he smoked a corncob pipe of tobacco every day, and he was just the happiest little fella, man. He had nothing to show of his work because everything he makes to sell, and he had like one little watch on his wrist from like one of his first watches that he's ever made. Like that was the only thing he had to show for his life's work, was just like a crazy looking office and the one watch on his wrist, which I really loved, and I thought that was quite a profound thing. I think it's a testament to the type of person he is, and how rare people like that can be. But anywho, his watches would resell for like $8 million. I think that was his highest sold watch, or his highest resold watch to date. Like on auction, went for like $8 million. And the guy in 60 Minutes was like, "How does that make you feel that your watch is selling for $8 million?" He's like, "It makes me feel good, But he's like, "I don't get any of the money from those auctions, but it feels good to kind of have like something like that out there for yourself." And they asked him if he was upset about not having the money, and he said, "No, it's not what I do it for. It's it's great that he makes all this money for making watches, but the naturally they're these timepieces, they tick on, I can't remember the word, but they tick on themselves. They tick by themselves. They're machine watches. What I'm making myself dumber by not knowing, having with the specific story reference. But when you make something like that, you're literally bringing it to life, because once you screw the last screw in, or you attach whatever gear you're attaching, it's ultimately self-ticking. And a lot of his watches have been working for 60 plus years under this same model. So I just found it really interesting how this guy viewed his work, and how much of like a not give a fuck factor, and how much he has let go to the final product or the outcome of it, and it's just addicted to the craft, and just addicted to the process of making something extremely interesting, extremely valuable. It's a lifelong piece, like something like that. They're all like one of one pieces. So I think that's like a really good example of someone that is you should aspire to be. Maybe not in its purest form. Like if you want to go make watches in Switzerland, sure, go ahead. But just in terms of like the morality and the reassurance of his own value, of his own worth, and that even though his watches are his watches are reselling for millions of dollars, he's not going out and chasing them down and starting legal battles over it or anything. He's just letting it be. It just is what it is, because he has no control over that. Like he can't go out and control every outcome. If somebody wants to come buy his watches and then wait 5 years to resell it, like sure, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. And even another portion, they talked about another watch manufacturer that is modeled similarly to him. I think they make like 300-400 watches a year, and they kind of go down a rabbit hole. But that's not the point. I'm not here to talk about fucking watches, man. Give a fuck. Shit. Fuck. I buy my watches off of Temu. But yeah, I think that's it was an extremely inspiring thing. I watched that before I went to bed last night. And I think I might be, aging myself unanimously by starting to watch 60 Minutes in my free time. Well, with that, I really do appreciate everybody tapping in and supporting the program. I wish everybody a very, very happy holiday season. And I thank you for joining this fireside chat. Take care. Brush your hair. Goodbye.